Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions about what if we're writing offers and we're afraid it won't appraise. Now here's the thing. Within reason, if it's going to appraise or not. So you can write as a buyer's agent a really high offer, and as a listing agent, maybe your sellers want to take that offer, but what happens if it doesn't appraise? Now, most of the people, the recommendations are to see if there's a way to waive the appraisal, which in most cases is not really feasible. Most of the time the lender does require the appraisal. Then if your client does have cash, of course they can agree to paying the difference from the appraised value to the offer. Now, if you're going to do that, I would definitely cap it out because your buyer does not have unlimited funds. And I would encourage, as the listing agent, I would encourage your seller to be realistic about what it will really appraise for and not just necessarily take the highest offer, because that doesn't mean they're going to get the money. What a lot of people don't realize is actually if your buyer does have cash, what you can do is, and it depends on the listing agent too, but instead of just making a high offer, and we won some deals based on this, instead of just making a really high offer that is unrealistic and is not going to be, it's not going to appraise, call the listing agent and say, hey, look, what do you think it's going to appraise for? What is the highest we think it will appraise for? And then what we'll do is we'll go to that, but then we'll make sure and we'll pay, as the buyer, we will pay some of the seller closing costs. Now that way, if we all know that it's not going to appraise really, really high, this ensures that the seller will actually get more money, will net more money. So as long as the listing agent understands that, that's a much better offer than a higher offer that we know is not going to appraise. Because it reduces the cost to the seller and it nets them more money, which if that's their issue, great. Now, when you're talking to the listing agent as the buyer's agent, and when you're communicating, find out what the seller really wants. It's not always about price. It can be about terms. So maybe if they do want more money or they want some type of guarantee that it will close, maybe the seller has, they do have an offer in, but it's contingent on this house selling and they're freaking out or whatever. Maybe as the buyer can offer a non-refundable earnest money, something large, so that if it doesn't, that way the seller feels confident it's going to close. And if it doesn't, it covers some of those carrying costs or whatever for their next house. So that could be an option. The other one is obviously occupancy after closing. And we've talked a lot about that. It really just depends on everybody's situations and if they're able to do it. So I hope these tips help. I think the main gist of it here is if we know it's not going to appraise, what are some other options that we can do inside of the contract that will help? One of the biggest tips that we've seen, just kind of like a side note or a bonus tip about how to win the offer, is go ahead and call, as the buyer's agent, go ahead and call your inspector. Oftentimes your inspector has a last minute slot, maybe in a day or two, and you can actually put that in the contract instead of a few days on inspections. If your buyer client is not willing to waive inspections, you can say, look, we'll do the inspection tomorrow at 3 if you accept our offer, and you can keep it active until we release our inspection or something like that. So for other tips, feel free to watch some of the other videos. If you do have an interest in joining us here at EXP, feel free to call or text me 513-400-1691. Hope that helps. Thanks.